Welcome, everyone, both Moshniks and friends of Rabbi Malkah Binah. It's a joy to have you all, and I do say that with pun intended, Lisa Joy. I am Rabbi Mark Novak, and you have found yourself in Minyan Oneg Shabbat's Zumagog. Um, and this is a term that came to be because of the curse of COVID. Um, And this blessing was born over 5 years ago already. And we have a community over 80 to 90 people who come to our gatherings regularly, including every Shabbos morning. And so you're invited to come back if this is your first time here with us. I'm tremendously excited about this evening because I met Rabbi Malkah Binah a couple of years ago in an online storytelling class that my wife Renee Brockfeld and I ran. We have an organization called the Multi-Faith Storytelling Institute. I think we lead the league in numbers of organizations that we have started. Um, and and also we re-met at the Aleph Kala 2 years ago, where I just thought her energy was infectious, and clearly this is a person who I need to know better. So when I put out on the Ohala listserv, Ohala is the my wife Renee likes to call it a rabbinical convention for unconventional rabbis. It's a it's open to renewal-minded people and people who've gotten smicha, ordination through Jewish renewal. Um, and that was 2 years ago, and we met there. And I put something on our on the listserv about teachers who might be interested in teaching for us during the counting of the Omer. And guess who's going to be returning during that? You guessed it. Rabbi Malkah Binah Klein is the founder of Merkava, Spiritual Transformation Through Creative Ritual. She's also a member of Sisters Waging Peace, which is a Philadelphia-based activist chapter of the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, which my wife Renee is also a member of a local here DC chapter. And a new, maybe most important, a newly certified laughter yoga leader. I don't know if you're going to bring any of that into tonight, but if I know you at all, it's that you're unpredictable and you follow the Ruach HaKodesh in whatever direction she takes you. So this evening, there is another way. Reflections on Sacred Witness Tour to Israel and Palestine with the American Friends of Combatants for Peace. I want to mention that I am recording this and to put up on our YouTube channel, which has all of my Divrei Torah and other teachings. If for any reason, when you offer something this evening and you prefer it not recorded, just let me know. I'll pause the recording and in baya, okay, no problem. I want to respect your privacy in that way, or anything else that happens can be edited out. I've got the magic tools for that. So this witness tour, you just got back. When you say recently, I don't know what the dates are, but you'll go ahead.
Um, it
You'll
was,
tell us.
it was,
Okay.
yeah, I can tell you.
Okay. Um, for the first time in 20 years to connect with the land, and that's you went. You hadn't been there for a while, and stand in solidarity with Israeli and Palestinian peace activists who are devoted to the path of nonviolence. So tonight we're going to be privy to Reb Michael Binah's story and also photos sharing with us your experience there. And so without further ado, um, this is part of the Moshe experience. Let's give it up for Rabbi Malkah Binah Klein. I have lots of toys.
Well, it's truly a pleasure to be here and to be with all of you. And I want to, as Reb Mark mentioned, that I went on what was called a Sacred Witness Tour. And I want to start with reflecting a little bit on the word witness, or in Hebrew, aid. And I want to bring up the Shema here to have a look at for a moment. So we have the Shema this is a klaf for a Megillah. It's also the way the Shema is written in a Torah scroll. That here, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. You will notice that the ayin at the end of the word Shema and the dalid at the end of the word Echad are both larger. And this spells the word aid. And the word aid means witness. And the word witness, I've learned a lot about it from my Christian friends and colleagues. This idea that we're witnessing to the divine presence, and it's witnessing to the oneness. Hear, O Israel, our God is the God of all, is the one God. And in a time of war, the divisions between people are exacerbated, and there's a lot of cultivation of there's us and there's them and we're enemies. And so this is dafka, a time when it's so important to come back to witnessing to the divine presence and to the interweaving of the oneness of all that is. And so that's, and I had the opportunity I'll tell you a little bit more about Combatants for Peace in a little bit. Well, actually, let me jump in now. So Combatants for Peace is an organization that was started 20 years ago, and it was started by former fighters from the Israeli side and the Palestinian side who said, we're going to lay down our arms and we're going to work on nonviolent resistance. And they're still going 20 years later. And also they do a very moving joint memorial on Yom HaZikaron, and also so that'll be April 29th this year. And you may think about having a community watch of that ceremony. And they also do a Nakba Day ceremony on May 15th, also a joint ceremony. And really about coming together and it's to recognize that it's not easy work to do. So before we move on, I'm going to invite Reb Mark to chant the Shema with us, and really holding what is the deeper meaning of Shema and of being a witness to the oneness of all that is, even in a time, especially when we get scared and start to believe that we are separate and that other people are our enemies.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 I invite you to sing it one time with me. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 And one last time as a nigun. Adonai Echad, Adonai
Mm, beautiful. And I want to share how I have started reciting the Shema, um, which is the Yud Hey Vav Hey that we um, do not traditionally pronounce. Um, Adonai is a substitute word, which literally means Lord. And what came to me a few years ago was that to me, God is love, and that so much of our tradition teaches that God is love. And this is really that same message about being witness to the divine presence. It's being witness to the divine love. And also, so the word for love is ahava. And also when we recite the Shema it also allows for a more open breath. Ahava, rather than Adonai, which is a diphthong. So just an invitation also to consider substituting the Shema Yisrael, Ahava Eloheinu. Love is our God. Ahava Echad. Love unifies. So moving on to my trip. So first of all, I want to share a little bit about my history of my relationship to Israel. I grew up in New Mexico, and my parents had never been out of the country. And I mean, they had both grown up in New York and had moved out to New Mexico for my dad's job in the late 60s, but they never left the country. And then my dad got an opportunity to go on a sabbatical to Tel Aviv University. And so when I was 6 years old in first grade, we spent the year in Israel. And it was a really formative time for me, and I became fluent in Hebrew and fell in love with the living by the rhythm of the Jewish calendar. And I dressed as Queen Esther for Purim, and I can still remember for Shavuot, we did this first fruits dance and festival. And when I returned to New Mexico, that something very, very sweet and deep had been instilled in me. And the Hebrew language was also very, very important to me through my upbringing. And my parents also sent me to a Zionist summer camp, Young Judea camp, which was run by Hadassah, where we would pretend to move to Israel to make Aliyah. And after college, I spent 2 years in Jerusalem studying at Machon Pardes, which is an egalitarian yeshiva. And something very special, like I stayed a second year because I had this sense I'm just on the cusp of having a sense of ownership over traditional texts, where I really can feel I know enough that I'm active in the conversation. I can open up a text and join in the conversation. And so I stayed that second year. And so I tell you this story just to share that so much of my identity formation came from this very special time I lived there. Now, when I was in my early 20s, I also went on a dialogue group to the West Bank. And we sat in a circle, and this was my first time sitting face to face with Palestinians. And I remember sitting with a young man about my age who shared about the experience of having Israeli soldiers come into their house in the middle of the night, and the destruction of things in their home, and arresting his father, and hearing him say these words, "I just want to be free like a bird." And it something kind of started churning in me of what was the meaning of those words. And I ended up on a long path of unpacking of what is it that my Jewish education didn't teach me about the story of Israel. And I've come to understand that this has been true for many, many people of um, having a particular view, a way that Israel gets taught that leaves out the Palestinians. And even today, there's still like a real struggle around what can be spoken in our communities. And something something I'm not particularly proud of, but that's part of my story is that kind of I got very confused about what's my relationship to Israel now, and I ended up not going for 20 years. And I think I also have held back from taking more prominent positions in the American Jewish community because there's an expectation that one has a way of presenting Israel, and I wasn't yet kind of ready to have my way that I towed the line. Um, and it was interesting. I once worked with a conversion student who had been married to a Jewish woman for many years, but he had been on his own journey of preparing to become Jewish. And when he finally came to me and said, I'm ready, he shared that for many years he had believed that he needed to figure out his relationship with Israel before he became Jewish. And I was able to share with him, I don't have it all figured out either. None of it, like that's not a requirement of being Jewish. I mean, and really about being Jewish, being Yisrael is one who struggles and wrestles. And we're in such a painful time. So that's a little bit of my history, and I just want to share one more thing, and then I'm going to bring us into my photos. And I never had an opportunity to have a slide projector and to show a slideshow, but I'm realizing that now it actually is really easy to do on Zoom, which is quite wonderful. So one other piece, as Reb Mark mentioned, is that I'm in a group called Sisters Waging Peace, which was started about a year ago. And we're a group of Jewish and Muslim women who are getting to know each other deeply and learning how to support each other and standing in solidarity with each other and with organizations that do peace work in Israel and Palestine. And we planned a vigil for City Hall here in Philadelphia, and one of the women from our group, I first met her through planning this vigil, is the granddaughter of a Palestinian refugee. Her grandmother had to flee Haifa in 1948 with her 9 children, and my friend's grandmother, my friend's father was the baby. He was just 6 months old at the time. And she and I have spent a lot of time together this past year, and our presence for each other has helped with a lot with heart healing. And she's been an important spiritual teacher to me around, like I would expect somehow she would have a hard time, like that you're a Jewish person who has a right to travel to Israel and to move to Israel in a way that I don't, like that it might mean that she would be angry towards me personally. But she has this very loving way that she relates to me. And also just the gratitude for so it's been kind of helping me learn a lot more about loving myself and not holding responsibility for things that aren't really mine to hold. And so when I was going on so I went on this American Friends of Combatants for Peace Sacred Witness Tour, which was, I think we were 17 people, and we spent a week in the land. I said to her, I want to take something on your behalf. I want to carry your heart with me. And the week before I left, I was in her home, and she remembered that she had a ring that belonged to her grandmother, the grandmother who had fled Haifa in 1948. And so she pulled it out and handed it to me and invited me to carry it back to the land. Um, and at first I was very nervous. That felt like, I mean, this is a family heirloom, this is a treasure, and you're trusting me with that. And I tried it on, and it was broken. It was not comfortable to wear. But she was really clear. She wanted me to take the ring, and so I found a jeweler who was able to repair the ring, and the ring traveled with me throughout the journey. And my friend Sama talks about how her grandmother was very loving and very protective. And so I felt like I had this very special way in which I was entering. Before I go on, any questions or just any words that feel are bubbling up that feel important to say? Okay, so I will bring up my pictures. So I start us on my journey. This is the Philadelphia airport, and they have art in the airport. And this was such a wonderful way to be blessed to head out on the journey. Choose love, and you are not alone. And here's the ring. And it's quite wonderful that it's a gold ring that has these two kind of interconnecting circles. Okay, so I fly to London, and it turns out that at the time I was buying tickets to travel to Israel, it was very, very, very expensive to fly from Philadelphia to Israel, or even from New York to Israel. And so I got the advice of fly through a European city, and that was actually like half the price. So I ended up deciding to go to London. And I arrive at Paddington Station in London, and the first encounter I have is that it's World Hijab Day, which Muslim women were, I think partly it's to like help make it more, like raise consciousness around the wearing of hijab. And so they had the hijab, and they invited me to come try one on, and they even gifted me with the hijab. I'd never put one on before. And I shared with them about my journey, and they were crying. And this is the woman who had greeted me, and just getting to hear her stories about like how she was bullied as a teenager, and so stopped wearing it, but then as a young adult started to wear it again. And she said, "This is my crown." So it's just a very sweet connection, and it just was so wonderful. Like, and also just the pandemic had really limited my travels. And I mean, this was my first big trip in many years. And so just the gift of like the love is everywhere here, and the opportunity for connection. Okay, so here I am. I'm in the London airport about to take off. There's my El Al boarding pass. And as I mentioned, Kauthar, who is the owner of this ring, was a very loving person. And I get onto the El Al flight, and all of a sudden I am flooded with love for every single person on this airplane. And that was quite stunning, because I haven't been to Israel in 20 years, and it's been very complicated, and all that I'm processing about is and there, like the love is here, and I'm here present, and whether I agree with the political views of the people on the plane, it doesn't matter. Like that, it was just this wow, it's just so sweet to be in company of these people who are of my people. And then I arrive in Ben Gurion Airport. And this, I believe, is an advertisement for a company called Gindi. I don't know what they sell, but it was like kind of a big big, a large like large screen. And I'm there with Kawthar's ring and really challenged by the message that this was the first thing I encountered once I went through passport control. It says, welcome home. And then it says, your roots. But it's like Jewish roots are welcome here because, and what I didn't say, but I think maybe is good, important to say explicitly, is that Kawthar fled to Lebanon in 1948. Her family was not allowed to become citizens in Lebanon. They lived in Lebanon, and she was not ever welcome back home, even though she wasn't that far away, to the land where her family had lived for many generations. And Kawthar also had shared stories of that she had a Jewish family next door, and she'd leave the kids with the Jewish family when she would go to the market. And that, but it's just so. But here it says your roots are welcome home. But really, only certain roots are welcome in the current state of Israel. And also your safety. And I went on, our tour was with a tour company called Mejdi that does what they call dual narrative tours. And we had a Palestinian guide and an Israeli guide. And it's very beautiful because they also do the hard work of their relationship with one another. And I was walking with our Palestinian guide when we were in Jerusalem, and there was a group of soldiers having a lesson. They were at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and they were just sitting. It was just like a group of Israeli teenagers who are wearing their army uniforms, and they're on break. But just to see how her body tightened and how she walked as far away as she could to not have them set eyes on her. So that was actually really powerful for me to get a sense of like things that I take for granted, that I'm safe being near Israeli soldiers, that she does not. Also, your pride, ha'ga'ava shalach, here with the Israeli flag. And then, I mean, it was so much happened just walking through the airport. This is they had for various hostages pictures. This was the Bibas children, and all of the different people coming through the airport leave tokens of love. And my trip was before. My trip was the middle of February, and we learned about the fate of the Bibas children after I got home. With so much grief and so much emotion. And then here I am walking, getting ready to exit the airport, and I was just noticing it says Bruchim Ba'im, welcome, and then also in Arabic. And so welcoming Kawthar home as well. But it's also welcoming me back after like being confused, do I belong here or not? And I took they have a wonderful train now to Jerusalem from the airport. And here's the train station in Jerusalem. And continuing the theme of welcome. And I just noticed a deep breath come and that's what we all so deeply need, is to know that we are welcome, that we belong. And a piece of art I saw in Jerusalem. And one of my favorite flowers, I think it's called the rakafet, or it's a cyclamen. So I decided to go up north to where Kawthar grew up, which was in Akko, or in Arabic, Akka. And this is just a scene from the bus going north from Jerusalem. And just taking in, and just really feeling for the young soldiers and the Has anybody here did anybody here go to the There Is Another Way film that was shown from the Combatants for Peace? I highly recommend it. It's been touring around the country. Um, that so because one of the members of Combatants for Peace, Iris Gur, who has come to speak a few times here in the U.S., she spoke about how um, her daughter refused to serve in the IDF a few years ago. And she said, at first, I was really angry with her because that everybody else in her family had served and she didn't understand. And then she said, and her daughter had to serve 4 months in a jail for refusing to serve. And she said, but then I decided I was going to listen to my daughter, and she learned from her, and now became very active and with Combatants for Peace. Um, and she spoke about how like she had to like totally, it's like this like her identity need was like kind of totally like a total rebirth of who she was and how she saw things. Um, but and just feeling for the young people and the choices they need to make. Um, oh, and also you see here, there's this sticker about the Ha'am Rotzeh Mashiach, the people want the Messiah. And so that was also like a thread. There's this messianic energy that's a little unsettling that I witnessed in different ways.
With the photo, of course, of the late Rabbi Schneerson
Yes.
of blessed memory.
And so here's just a scene going up north, sharing some of the beauty of the land. And then here I am in Akko, and Kauthar, whose ring I was wearing, grew up at this bathhouse. Her sister-in-law, whose home she lived in, was the manager of this bathhouse, and they have a little museum there now. So I made a special trip to the bathhouse, and and here I am inside the bathhouse. And then and Akko is right on the Mediterranean, and so they're kind of being at the sea at sunset. And I want to acknowledge, I'm kind of listening with my imagination to what is she saying. I don't know literally whether she's speaking with me or not, but I'm hearing words, and I'm hearing her deep gratitude for to just really to be welcomed back. And then when I went near the sea, I sensed this desire that the ring be thrown into the sea. I chose not to because I wanted to bring the ring back. But that sense of the grief, and also the sea is what saved her family. They fled by sea. And here's the sunset over the Mediterranean. And I spent a night with a new friend in Yodfat, which used to be a kibbutz. It's one of the villages up in the north, and just sharing the beauty of early spring. Or I think it was Tu B'Shvat while I was there. Okay, so here's actually something I'm curious if anyone can help me out with this. So this phrase, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yamini. This is from the Psalms. If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand be forgotten. And I still haven't, I'm going to stop the share for a moment. I haven't unpacked what is this meaning of may, or also I've read a translation, may my right hand know its cunning or something. But there I am with my right hand wearing this ring. But does anyone have any insight in this moment about what is the meaning of this verse? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand be forgotten.
Just a thought that your right hand represents your power, your strength. And so may I be weakened if I forget Jerusalem. This
Hmm.
everywhere. This is not unique to this spot.
So, and so I want to, so one of the very special things they did with us in Jerusalem. So I want to share two stories about Jerusalem. So the first is this was all the pre-tour. I didn't yet meet my tour group. So now it's time to go meet the tour. I take the bus back I've brought the ring back to Akko, and I arrive in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is if you haven't been, who here has not been there in many, many years? Like it's gotten much, much more developed. There's so much building. It's very, very crowded. People are moving very, very quickly in West Jerusalem. So I arrive at the central bus station in Jerusalem, and I need to get to East Jerusalem, where we're going to be staying at the Holy Land Hotel in East Jerusalem. And I have a lot of anxiety about how am I going to get myself from the bus station in West Jerusalem to East Jerusalem. And I decided I'm going to try to take the bus. And I wait for the bus, and it's very late. And then when the bus finally arrives, like so many people, it's a bus that drives through Geula, which is I'm not sure, it drives through an ultra-Orthodox neighborhood and then arrives in East Jerusalem. And there's so many people pack on the bus that there's just no way me and my little suitcase can get on the bus. Or I'm not ready to have that experience of, and I can't find a cab. So then I realized like it's only a 50-minute walk and I only have a little suitcase. So I decide to walk. And I am noticing throughout this walk that I'm terrified that I'm going to arrive in East Jerusalem and someone's going to kidnap me. And I was actually walking on Rehov HaNevi'im, the road of the prophets. And as soon as I get to East Jerusalem, it's actually just much quieter. And there's people going about their business, and nobody is looking to, like, it feels very safe. And so it was this really interesting learning about, like, I was trained to fear Palestinians. Just as Americans are trained to fear Black men. But they're actually more vulnerable. Like they're more vulnerable to be harassed by police or to be have less access to resources. But there I was kind of carrying this. And so it was like actually a huge relief to actually be with that fear and then to realize it's something like deep in me, but it was not something like worthy of carrying within. So it's like of starting to unpack some things that are in my consciousness. So the second thing is that they started us when we and then I arrive at the tour at the hotel. The hospitality is just beautiful. The food is beautiful. The warm welcome and just coming to understand that in the Middle Eastern Arab culture, Palestinian culture, there's such a warm, like generosity and warmth that I felt so blessed to be a recipient of and want to learn from that. So the other story is that they started us out once we started the tour the next day on what Jews call the Temple Mount. Who here has ever been up there? I'm curious to hear if anyone wants to share a little bit about what did you experience energetically when you were up there? Go ahead, Devorah.
Well, there were a lot of people. There was a lot of energy. I'd been told if I wanted to go there to wear nothing identifying me as being Jewish. And I felt very brave, but also very cautious. And then all of a sudden there was a scuffle, and there were guns and uniformed people, and I just quietly watched where they had come through, and I just went out that way and left because it was just too dangerous, I felt. But until that time, it was like really, there was a lot of energy and a lot of people in groups talking, and things were happening, and it was just a busy place. It's like a market square almost.
Interesting. So we had a very different experience. One of the deep tragedies of this war is that access to holy sites is sharply limited, that tourism is way, 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 way down, and then also people from the West Bank, it's very, very hard to get a permit to come visit. So when we were there, it was practically empty. And I've only been there once before, and it was when my brother was on an Israel year, and I was with my parents, and my dad went up there, but it was like we weren't really supposed. It was a sense of being nervous that is it okay to be up here, and there's also a teaching that like we don't know where the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies in the temple was, and we don't want to walk on that, so Jews shouldn't really be up there or what. But this time I was with this beautiful tour group. We were 17 Americans, only 6 of us were Jewish, and just people devoted to just really big hearts around this theme of let's find ways to resolve conflict and to work together. And we want to know, we want to witness, and we want to hold everybody. There are 7 million Israelis, 7 million Palestinians, or 7 million Jews, 7 million Palestinians, and nobody's going anywhere. That's the message. So when I'm up there on the Temple Mount, what I experience is this incredible, I'm an energy worker, like I'm someone who really feels energy. It was one of the most profound, sweetest, beautiful energies I've ever felt. And so it got me curious of like, I think this must be just one of those very special places on the planet where there's this very sweet energy. And just taking in, what if this could be something that anybody had access to, that it wasn't about one group of people or another, but because we all need that kind of very sweet, like, I mean, it's so profoundly healing. I'm going to go back to my pictures here. But I want to share with you a few of the images from. So first of all, this is as we are like going up to enter. There's only one entrance if you're not Muslim to get up to the Temple Mount. And so if you're a Christian Palestinian and want to get up there, you have to pass this area. And I just want to just share with you, like, there's some really, really toxic words being put up by Israelis, and which was chilling. This particular sticker was particularly chilling. It says tshuva, which I believe in this case means becoming religious, milchama, war, gerush, expulsion, hityashvut, settlement, equals nitzachon, victory. And I was just taking in, like, it's horrific, but that it's like kind of there, like kind of witnessing really problematic. And then also like learning that Palestinians who are Israeli citizens are not allowed to talk about the Nakba, the expulsion of Palestinians, and they're not allowed to tell their own truth. They can, and especially on social media, they can get arrested for that. And so it's kind of like who's allowed to speak and whose violent words are permitted. So when you walk up, you see the kotel. And here is like, just as you can see, it's empty and just such beautiful energy up there. And also so sad because, as Devorah shared, it used to be, I mean, families would come for a pilgrimage day, and it was a place of joy and of connection. And this is Yael, our Israeli tour guide, and she's showing us that. So it's actually there's an agreement between the various governmental there's an agreement that Jews are not going to pray in community up on the Temple Mount. However, these are a group of Jews who come daily to pray up on the Temple Mount, and they're being supported by what's called the border police. And so they were walking by as we were up there, which is chilling. That and then here is the Dome of the Rock. And I brought the golden ring and placed it on the mosque as just bringing her home, and just for fun, a cat that gets to enjoy the beautiful energy up here on this special place. And also walking through the shuk in the Muslim quarter, and just sharing all the richness of spices. And one of the learnings from this trip is about it, like wanting to celebrate all the spiciness of life, and just inviting you to imagine you're standing there and smelling the cinnamon, the cardamom, the cloves, the star anise, the ginger, and here in America, there's a lot of kind of like the standard American diet, and the way, like this kind of taking away the richness and the spice and and it's also, but I was taught it's dangerous to be in the Muslim quarter in Jerusalem. And but so it's just nice to be with a group where we were so warmly welcomed, and we had lunch there, and they were just so grateful that there was a group there to serve. Okay, and then we went to the kotel, and just wanted to share that this was the little petek, the little slip that I put into the kotel. And by the way, the kotel was quite crowded, whereas up on the Temple Mount was not. It was not that easy to get up close. So I wrote the words ahava, love, shalom, peace, notnim reshut ze lazeh lahakdish leyotzram, which is from our prayer book. Imagining the angels giving permission one to the other to praise their creator. And so I rolled that up and I put it in the wall. And I also included the friendship bracelet that Sama had made for me when we first met. We created a vigil. It's in City Hall here in Philadelphia, and it was a women's vigil. We decided to have yarn that people would make each other friendship bracelets when they left the vigil. And so our very first encounter in person was practicing making these friendship bracelets. And actually, I want to take a quick chanting break, and I have a different image to bring up here. So this was at that vigil I mentioned, and she told some of her story, and she said, we're going to hold hands when we speak. We each told some of our story, and I want to invite us to, if you are so moved, to join me in chanting this line from the book of Ruth. Your people are my people, your God is my God. Amech ami, ve'Elohayich Elohai. Amech Ami, Velohai Elohai. Amech Ami, Velohai Elohai. Amech Ami, Velohai Elohai. Elohai. Amech Ami, Velohai Elohai. Amech Ami, Velohai Elohai. Amech Ami, Velohai Elohai. Amech Ami, Velohai Elohai. Elohai. And returning to the photos. Let's see. I think I'm going to take us to Bethlehem now. So there is a separation wall, as I imagine many, if not all of you know about, that I think it's 700 kilometers long, separating between Israel and the West Bank. And it's the kind of wall that they're talking about putting on the southern border of the United States with Mexico. And there's incredible artwork on the Palestinian side of the wall, and wanting to share some of this artwork with you and the messages of resistance. And I believe, and some of these are by the artist Banksy, who doesn't reveal who he is, and he goes to different places of conflict and leaves his art. And here we've got two angels working on taking down the wall. I believe that this is meant to be a Palestinian and an Israeli angel working together to take down the wall. And just so many messages, like just really taking in what does it mean to just how this wall restricts access and makes it much harder to see family, to find work, and it's something really to evaluate. I think the justification for it was that it would make it's about protection, but so often, I mean, something to be reflecting on. In what ways is a wall protection, and in one way is it oppression? So where's some other images of the wall? And this one is in Hebrew, Yeshochrer Ghetto Aza, speaking about Gaza as a ghetto. Free the Gaza ghetto. This one is a message to the British. The British, in so many ways, are responsible for the mess that Israelis or Palestinians are in. And kind of this joke, imagining that the British said sorry. And also here's our tour guide showing us this map, how the Kever Rachel, the grave of Rachel, that the wall was built in such a way that the Palestinians don't have access to it. They kind of built it around her tomb. Also on the wall, solidarity with George Floyd. some humor. The image of the key that's seen a lot in Palestine. Many families were told you need to leave. The fighting is heavy in 1948. You leave for a week and then you'll come back. They kept their keys, and so many people were never able to go home. And the key remains a symbol, and some families still have their original key. And then I had shared with you that phrase I had first learned, free like a bird. And here's some birds on the wall. I don't normally swear, but this was very apt, because it's not about, I mean, like a big message of being with the Combatants for Peace, it's not about that any particular group is bad. It's about we're all stuck in this system of oppression. And yes, there's an unequal power dynamic, but it's really about how do we change the system. And this is Rachel's tomb is on the other side. I imagine that someone who painted not kosher was probably a young Jewish American activist. And when I got home, I asked what the meaning of this on this grave is, and that it's about that even after death they will return. That's still holding the image of the key. And then this is I believe that there's 4 refugee camps around Bethlehem. This is the Aida refugee camp, and so they have a big key as the symbol. Oh, and they have some angels holding up the key. So these people have, I believe they've been here since 1948 in the refugee camp. This is a just really tragic place where a 13-year-old boy was killed by a soldier here. Just a lot to take in. And here's a little shop in Aida refugee camp. They are apparently the place in the world where the most tear gas has been thrown. And I think they might even test different kinds of weapons here. And so this shop has taken a creative approach and has taken they collect all of these canisters and they turn them into jewelry. So they kind of create different the swords into plowshares, the canisters into jewelry. Why did you turn our home into a war zone? And just really taking away this image of the desire to thrive, the desire to educate the children. And one of the things that was really chilling is that I heard more than once when I was visiting in Israel before my trip, before the tour, of this kind of line of there is no innocent person in Gaza. That was quite horrifying to hear. And I know that's not true, and yet it's kind of, and then I Googled it and I learned that there's one of the news sources is putting out that kind of rhetoric and people are picking it up. And just this happens to be, this is in Bethlehem, the Church of the Nativity, said to be where Jesus is born. And here too, it was completely empty. Whereas it used to be, people had to wait in long lines. I'm noticing that the time, okay, so here we are at the Office of the Combatants for Peace. and these incredibly beautiful people who are devoted to working with Israelis and the path of nonviolence. And it's a hard path. And this woman, Fatima, grew up in Gaza. And as a young woman, she somehow made contact with Israeli peacemakers. And which was a big risk because Hamas was in control, and they even called her in at one point. And she says they took her cell phone, but they let her go. And then she was even allowed to go spend a week with these peacemakers in Israel that she had reached out to with a group. And so she stayed afterwards and didn't move back. But she shared with us her story one evening, and tragically, her mother was killed by a drone in Gaza in November. So just taking in the profound pain and the toll on human life and the courage of people to keep going in the midst of the trauma. And these are two of the founders of Combatants for Peace. Okay, I'm noticing the time, so I think I'm gonna just let me find one more picture to wrap up. I guess I needed more than an hour.
We have 15 more minutes.
Oh, we do? Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I want to share about being in. Okay, so I saw a few different things here. So number one, something that I had heard about, but it didn't really kind of hit me until I heard the Palestinians who were with us on our tour and teaching us about their lives, just how profound the impact is that their water is Palestinians, this is in Bethlehem, access to water is limited. That when Israeli settlers come, they make them a direct pipe to the water supply. For Palestinians in different places, it's different. They run the water 4 hours a day or 2 days a week, and so Palestinian homes have these gathering tanks so that they have water when they need it. And our Palestinian guide from Mejdi shared with us how she knows how to take a very quick shower. And we were with one of the combatants is from Jericho, and he shared how there's many wonderful water springs around Jericho. And the Israeli water company has taken control of all of them, except for the one that's within the environs of Jericho. So just taking in how the injustices and the limitations of how hard it is to thrive. And also, our tour bus had to go through a lot of checkpoints, and you don't know whether the checkpoint's going to be open or closed. So we had this incredible bus driver, he would drive to one spot. The soldiers aren't there. There's no app that tells you don't go this way or, and so then he'd have to turn around and take an extra 15 minutes out of his way to go another way. And one time, and it was at night, the checkpoint was closed, and it would have taken an hour to drive around to the next checkpoint. So he just went, he knows the area. He went on this very steep, windy dirt road in order to get us back to our hotel. And for Palestinians, this means it's very hard to get to work. It's hard to see family. It's hard to get an ambulance. And it was also witnessing that we sometimes drove by a little check post where the soldiers have their guns sticking out, Like you can see the gun pointing out at you. And so it's like just feeling the military occupation all the time. And another piece is like that natural lands are in the Jewish territories. So it's very hard to get access to nature as well. And so we spent a day, we went down to the south in Israel and just sharing with you like what you see on the road. Here's the hostages, and this phrase in the red is Ma im ze haya haben shelcha. What if this was your son? And because the hostage families have been working so hard to raise the consciousness of we have to stop this war and we have to bring the hostages home, and it's been so painfully slow. And the Chabad Center, we were in Sderot, which is one of the towns that's received a lot of the rockets from Gaza. And the Chabad Center was very generously let us come in and use the bathrooms. And then they told us a little bit about this menorah they built, which is all these different kind of shells that they found on their property. And I think one of them's from the Iron Dome, which shoots down the rockets. And then, and they have here, they left one of a rocket that hit their building. And here again, I mentioned we see like the message of the Messiah's coming. That's here in the consciousness. And we went. This is in Sderot. The little children need to learn that they have 10 seconds if they hear a siren to run. That this is a bomb shelter on the playground. They can run inside. And then there's an overlook to Gaza from Sderot. So, and, you know, I personally actually, this is Gaza City right here. I wanted to just stay here once we were in and just pray. It was so moving to be there. And so a moment of sending our love to all the people there, including all those who are serving as soldiers. And I was moved by this cloud over Gaza. And was remembering that this ring, that Kauthar was a woman of great love and spirit of protection. Sorry for taking you so quickly through so many different emotional landscapes. So that same day, we also went to the Nova Festival site. And these are all the young souls who died that day. And they have decided to make the site of the field into a place of pilgrimage, and each family was invited to create a memorial to their young person. And I found this bench very moving. His name is Liam, Lamed, Yud, Aleph, Mem in the black, and then Lo Yeda Od Milchama. May we no longer know war. And this green quote, this must be one of his quotes, Lo lahafsik lahishtanot, don't stop changing yourself. legadol, becoming greater, maybe lilmod ulechavot, to study and to experience, I believe. And there's these amazing red flowers that this has traditionally been a place of pilgrimage for Israelis at this time of year, that the fields fill with these flowers. And the flowers still bloom. And here you see, I mean, it's so profoundly, so sad, and so that the young people coming to visit this site. It is, I don't want to end with, I want to end on a positive note here. I think I will end with a flower. This is a flower in Hebron, and it spoke. It really reflected what I witnessed. Of there's still a lot of beauty, and there's a lot of imperfection, and there's a lot of pain, and as I shared, the chair of the Israeli branch of Combatants for Peace, she's a veterinarian who lives in Tel Aviv. Her name is Noah. I said, what should I tell Americans when I go back home? And she said, tell them, don't be pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian. Don't negate either. Don't hold that kind of dichotomy. Be pro-humanity and pro-peace. And what I learned from meeting the members of Combatants for Peace, and there's a lot of wonderful kind of resources. And then I mentioned that the joint memorial will be coming in a few weeks, and there's recordings of the past one. There's that we have so much to learn from them, these treasures who understand that you can't change the world tomorrow. You can't just snap your fingers and make it different, but the commitment, and there's this Arabic word sumud, like steadfastness, this commitment to hope, to building a new world, to building connections, and to seeing beyond, and to healing trauma, and to holding out that there is another way. And that's one of the mottos of Combatants for Peace. There is another way. And may we, as we navigate whatever is coming our way here in the United States, also hold that there's a lot of wisdom to be learning about, that there is another way. Amech ami ve'Elohaich Elohai. Amech ami ve'Elohaich Elohai. Amech ami ve'Elohaich Elohai. Amech ami ve'Elohaich Elohai. Elohai. And I want to say, if you have a few more minutes, I would love to hear, like, even just a few words from each person who would like to share about just even a feeling word or an image that you're taking with you. I'd love to hear your voices.
Anyone? Just unmute yourselves.
Malkah Binah, my name is Haiti. I am profoundly moved to tears by everything you shared, by who you are, by the size of your soul, and I thank you for your sacred witnessing.
Amen. Thank you.
Rachel?
I'm an Israeli girl. I was born in Syria, and we were thrown out of Syria to go to Israel. And in your speech, the whole time, I have not heard one good word about the Israelis. One good word. My brother died in the war. My other brother got hurt in his head, which better to be dead in the war. My cousin died in the war. And you're coming to me, to us, and telling us how bad we are with the Palestinian. By the way, you do not have the right history because the Israelis told in 1947 to the Muslims, do not leave the country, do not leave Israel. But the other people said, leave Israel. So they all packed because we're going to finish them in no time. So you come in here and said nothing good about this country, and you said about the people that were killed in October 7. You said they died. They didn't die. They got killed. So choose your word correctly. It makes me so angry that it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that's how as a Jew talk. I mean, I do not care, but I love to have the peace and all that in there. We did not start October 7. We did not start 1948. We did not start 56. We did not start 67. We did not start 72. So don't tell us how good, wonderful they are, and we are the bad ones.
I want to thank you, Rachel. Was it Rachel?
Yeah, it's Rachel.
Rachel, I want to thank you for sharing your story, and I would love to find a time to learn more from you. And
I don't think so. I don't think that I will ever agree with you about anything because you just said things that you have no idea about. You did.
and I thank you for speaking your truth.
You're welcome. Yes, I will always speak the truth. So you should do too. Learn it and then speak it.
Would anyone else like to share before we wrap up? Would love to hear a few more voices. Yes, Sarabina.
I felt as though I was on the tour of Combatants with Peace with you. I appreciated your photos. I appreciated your experience. And I just felt in my kishkas that I was with you. And thank you so much.
Meira.
Thank you so much, Malkah Binah, for your deep awareness. So I feel deeply connected to both sides. And what's important to me is that there is another way, but I don't yet know what that way exactly looks like. And I think there is a lot of pain to be negotiated before we can walk that path. So witnessing is one way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I want to thank you. I have two grandchildren who live in Ramat Gan, and and I'm not sure how many times my heart can break, and how many tears I have left, and I worry about that. You asked me when we began whether I wanted to sing my musical setting.
May I say one more thing?
You can't interrupt me, though.
My granddaughter Her husband and 2 children live in Jerusalem, near Jerusalem, and she's a pediatric nurse in Hadassah Hospital. She goes to work every day, and so does her husband. And every day I pray for their safety. Dibort.
Shemati. So shortly after October 7th, a melody came to me for Gesher Tzar Ma'od. And I went back to look at the text, and of course, I don't think many people know that the words that are used for the song are not the original text from Reb Nachman, but rather Ha'ikar lo hitpached klal, not to make oneself afraid. And so I've been carrying that with me, and it's really hard. And because we're surrounded, it's as if we're marinating in conditions that are ripe for fear. But it is coming together for opportunities to see the image of God in everyone. That perhaps is the way out. And where that will come from, I don't know. And how it will happen, just like you said, Meira, I have no idea. One thing that came to me, that I had questions, which led to the song. And there's a line in the song that I'm going to share with you, and we'll go out with it, is, I'm praying a prayer for you. Are you praying a prayer for me? In our prayerful gatherings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I sing many times pray for the peace of Israel, pray for the peace of Ishmael. And so it came from this question I have. It's like, is there anyone on the quote unquote other side praying for me? And you present and you witnessed the Combatants for Peace, and there are so many the people from Standing Together are so courageous. And it's important for us to acknowledge the courage of those who are doing the work. Insulated, isolated, and speaking truth to power. I have to admit, I have filled with tears, and I'm shaken. I will not go see, the movie that won the Academy Award, and I had the opportunity to, because that would just break my heart as a validation of so much evil that has been perpetrated in God's name, in our God's name, not, the God of only Gevurah, Ish Milchama. And that's not my God. So thank you for providing us a container to witness with you. And I think that's a beautiful thing that you said, Reb Sarah, that you feel like you've paid witness through Malkah Binah's eyes. Not at the evil of this side and one side, but at the humanity of both sides that is just yearning to live and raise their families. So let us continue to be witnesses to all that is good and all that's been promised to us. Oseh shalom b'mromav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yal kol yoshvei tevel, is the bookmark, right? For every section of every prayer service ends with peace. And the last thing I'll say is something you've heard me say before. I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. If you have any questions that you would like to pass on to Rabbi Malkah Binah Klein from Philadelphia, she marinates, I think marinates in the Germantown air there. Let me know, or if you want to put your email address into the chat so people can be in touch with you. And I want to share with you the song that came to me shortly after October 7th, and we'll bid adieu. Thank you all for your holy presence this evening. I hope you got what you came for, and your presence is important to me and to each other. We hold each other through this madness that surrounds us. Kol ha'olam, kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar ma'od. Kol ha'olam, kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar ma'od. The world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od, the world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od. If I reach out my hand to you, will you reach out your hand to me? If I reach out my hand to you, will you reach out your hand to me? The world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od, the world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od. I am praying a prayer for you. Are you praying a prayer for me? I am praying a prayer for you. Are you praying a prayer for me? The world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od, the world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od. If you lived in peace in your own land, would I live in peace in my own land? If you live, when you live in peace in your own land, will I live in peace in my own land? The world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od, the world is a very, very narrow bridge. Gesher tsar ma'od, ma'od. Thank you, Malkah Binah. Thank you all.
Thank you.